Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is April the 7th, 2017. Real quick, there have been some people who've been sending me Bitcoin tips. Thank you, both of you people. You know who you are. You're awesome. I don't know who one of you is, but the other one I do. Thank you. All right. It is This Week in Bitcoin. It has been a crazy week, and we have a crazy special unannounced guest. It is Charlie Lee. He is here, and oh my God, I'm going wild because I didn't know he was going to show up. But we also have Francis Pouliot, Shane, the Independent Optimist, and Bitcoin. And they're coming from Montreal, Seattle, and Orlando. And of course, Charlie is coming from Silicon Valley. So Bitcoin is at $1,200. And we're all happy. But this ASICBOOST thing is in the air. And I wanted Charlie to quickly go over what he thought about that. Charlie, can you, we can't hear you there. Oh wait, I think you're muted or something. Did you unplug your mic or something? Can you guys hear him? I can't hear. All right, we're gonna go. Wait there. He's working on that. Francis, I wanted you to give a little brief introduction of yourself because you're really well known because you sent out, I think last week, a letter representing a lot of Canadian companies and Canadian exchanges and Canadians supporting segregated witness. Am I correct about that? To tell us what you do up there with the Canadian Bitcoin Embassy and what's going on with Segwit in Canada.
Right, so I'm really just kind of an ordinary guy, but I act kind of as a community organizer down here in Montreal. I've been running the Bitcoin Embassy for 3.5 years, and I've been involved in a bunch of Bitcoin projects, nonprofits, and so forth. And the idea with that is, well, you know, at the Bitcoin Embassy, we've been kind of a pro-Bitcoin core, pro-conservative scaling for a long time. We're fortunate enough to be next to, you know, Blockstream's offices. Their headquarters in Montreal. And very early on, I mean, back early 2015, they came and explained to us the scaling roadmap. A little bit, you know, before the debate happened. So we've always, you know, been big supporters of the core team, and obviously being involved with some of the people who organized scaling Bitcoin. As soon as Segwit came out, you know, we were all watching live at the Bitcoin Embassy, and we were all very thrilled. So that kind of sets the stage. I mean, we're a group that's really pro Bitcoin core, and when we saw the exchanges coming out with the announcements, we thought it was great. We were a little bit disappointed that some of them decided to list, that they said they were going to list, you know, the Bitcoin Unlimited coin. And then we saw the very inspiring and very good post by Bitrated, a company from Israel, announcing their stance on the hard fork. And what's really interesting is this idea of the corporate seppuku, which is something that we saw in the privacy world, right? So corporate seppuku is basically if you're compromised, you'd rather shut down your company than go on. And, you know, Bitrated basically said, you know, if Bitcoin Unlimited becomes the main fork, I'm not going to be able to support that. And, you know, being a study of how, you know, change, happens in society, I know that it's always kind of the more radical part that gets their way. So we say, you know, let's do it. Let's just do a kind of corporate seppuku, saying, which was kind of like the intention of our letter, saying we're not going to support Bitcoin Unlimited in any way, shape, or form. We're always going to support the minority, you know, core chain if there's a fork. And we're not. So what we did different was saying we're not going to list Bitcoin Unlimited. So we're not just saying, oh, you know, we're going to list both. We're just not going to list Bitcoin Unlimited ever. And the idea with that was basically, the way that I see it in consensus, the economic nodes have a huge role to play, but they don't really know it, and they don't really kind of, they don't appreciate this role. They're always kind of, the big economic nodes are kind of always looking to see where the consensus is going, trying to figure out where the wind is shifting by querying the devs and the miners. But it's almost like if economic nodes don't feel like they're an active participant in consensus. And our idea was to say, we're not going to wait and see where the consensus lands, but we're going to try to shape the where consensus is going. So the idea was not to represent Canada. It was kind of like, so it's not an organization. We're not a group or anything like that. It was just a letter that was started by me and a guy from Alberta, the people from Bitcoin Brains. And we got we were lucky enough to get a bunch of people to sign on to. And I think generally in Canada, so what's interesting is that we queried 25 businesses, 18 of them signed the pledge. Most of them did not sign because they were gonna list BTU anyway, right? So these are exchanges that wanted to get the volume from it. And interestingly enough, one of them did not sign because Segwit was already too much of a block size increase and they didn't like that. But none of them were supporters of Bitcoin Unlimited. None of the businesses we queried.
Well, I'm really happy that you came on the show today and clarified all this with everyone. And I'm impressed by what you guys did. It just made Canada seem so huge and organized, and I was really impressed. And people were it was being retweeted by a lot of people. So this is the guy. So now you get a little bit of an insight what's going on in Canada. At least, and we've had many Canadian guests, by the way. There are a lot of great Canadians that they're into Bitcoin from the West Coast especially, but I'm glad we got somebody up in Montreal. So we will get back to you. Charlie Lee, can you be heard now? Say something.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. So tell us
Cool.
about this situation that has developed this week with this ASICBOOST thing.
So yes. So this ASICBOOST thing, it's if it's been going on, no one can really prove whether or not Bitmain or anyone else has been doing this covert form of ASICBOOST. So, but when there's smoke, there's fire, right? There's so much like kind of circumstantial evidence that we've seen, like the ant pool supports it, their machines support it, they've been mining empty blocks, they've been blocking Segwit, by supporting BU inexplicably and threatening to do 75% do a 75% hard fork, which is really crazy. And now we know potentially it's because they've been doing this covertly, and this is the way to protect themselves, protect this, to keep on doing this, right? So I mean, I don't know, no one knows for sure that they're doing this, but it just seems very suspicious. And if they are, then it's really bad because they're selling hardware, underperforming hardware to everyone else. In the meantime, they're mining at 20% more efficient, 20% less energy themselves, and they are actively blocking protocol upgrade, right? So, I mean, I'm not gonna we don't know if they're really doing that, but if they are, then it's really bad. So I think we should definitely block it, because I'm talking about the covert form of it, because the covert form is what's causing problems. The overt form is more of a optimization, and it's patented. And if someone wants to pay the patent and use that, I think that's fine. I mean, of course, people are still against patenting it, but the covert form is what's really bad. So
now, do you think that now that this is out in the open, that it will put some pressure on segregated witness to actually get going here, that the other miners will just be like, let's just get this thing over with so they don't have an advantage?
I think a little bit. I'm not sure if a lot of the miners are not following day-to-day news, so they might not even know. So I think over time people will realize it and would want, even if Bitmain or anyone else is not doing it, they want to block this loophole, right? If you're not, you want to have a level playing field. Otherwise, mining becomes extremely unfair. So I think people would want to block it, and segregated witness is one way to block this covert form of ASICBOOST. Greg Maxwell also suggested a bit to block it, so that's another possibility. I think the user-activated soft fork movement is growing stronger because of this. I mean, people are kind of sick of giving miners all the power to control the protocol upgrade. So I think that's also a possibility, but that's a little bit more risky.
All right. This is just filling my head with this new information. It's very interesting. The market. What do you think about the way the market has reacted, though? I mean, the price is at 1,200. It seemed like there was a positive reaction when this came out. I mean, that's what I've seen, at least. Do you agree with that? Or
yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin price has definitely gone up. I think the market is reacting positively because of just less uncertainty, right? People were not sure why there was such resistance to Segwit, and now that it becomes clear, like everything is falling into place, and people realize maybe we could get past this deadlock, and Segwit witness could be accepted. At least there's more clarity about what's going on. So.
But before I get to the other guests again, and I'm glad they're being patient, because we never know when Charlie's going to have to go. There was going to Litecoin Segwit right now. There was a tweet, and I just wanted to clarify this for everyone. There was a miner, I believe it was a Chinese miner, who all of a sudden seemed like he was hesitating about it, and then you clarified that he was still supporting it. Can you elaborate on that, and is he still supporting it?
Yeah, so it's the operator of F2 pool, which is the largest Litecoin pool. They own, they have about 35% of the Litecoin hash rate. And they were the ones that originally, that first started supporting Segwit. Well, not first, but their support of Segwit caused a huge price jump in Litecoin, because all of a sudden it went from 20% support to like 60% signaling of Segwit. So Greg Maxwell's email about ASICBOOST kind of upset him because you know how Greg Maxwell can be kind of the way he writes. Just as a miner or a pool, I guess he was really upset that they were kind of being attacked by Bitcoin Core people, and he got really upset about Bitcoin Core and segregated witness indirectly. So he just tweeted an offhand remark saying that he's thinking twice about signaling for Segwit on Litecoin. So I reached out to him. I mean, the market panicked right away because he's such a big he has such a big influence in Litecoin Segwit signaling. So I reached out to him and I talked to him and kind of just made sure that asked him what's going on, and he told me that's what's going on. And I just asked him, can you please keep supporting us and keep signaling Segwit? And he said yes. So that's all I know right now. I mean, at any time he could decide to change his mind again. So hopefully he wouldn't just tweet it out before just talking to us.
Yeah. The Twitter can be a blessing and it can be a curse. People have to be careful what they let out there. Now Shane, the independent optimist, we have Charlie Lee here. I want to hear your opinion. If you think, what do you think? You've made some nice Litecoin predictions before, Shane. But do you have any questions for Charlie by any chance? Anyone here? Do you guys have any questions for Charlie that can further the conversation here? Shane, first you.
Well, I guess I would first say that I really appreciate Litecoin. I think it had a very ethical model to begin with, and it's the only altcoin that I really enjoy. So I have Bitcoin, and then I have Litecoin, and I've predicted in the past that Litecoin would hit $1,000 as just kind of a joke, but I hope it hits 100 soon, because in terms of units, I have way more Litecoin than I do Bitcoin, so that'd be really awesome. So since I have you here, Charlie, I just wanted to thank you for creating Litecoin. I find it to be quite a blessing in the altcoin world.
All right, remember everyone, pound that like button now. Pound that like button. It helps people come to this video, know about this video, know that we've got such special guests here today, shocking special guests. And also, everyone's pertinent links are actually below this video if you want to check out Shane's page and any of the guest page. I didn't add Charlie. I mean, everyone knows Charlie is, but everybody else is listed below. Bitcoin. Hello. Oh, wait, yes, Francis, yes, please.
Can I ask a question to Charlie?
Yes, please, please.
Yeah, actually, so we all saw, very happy about, Litecoin going up, been a big Litecoin hoarder for a long time. But I think a lot of people think it's because of Segwit, but kind of buried under the noise, on the 28th or 29th, Charlie, you tweeted about Omni being ported to Litecoin. And that is, in my opinion, I mean, that may have been what caused, the price of Bitcoin to go up, because when you think about the bloat on the Bitcoin blockchain, a lot of people are not very happy with Colu and Omni and Counterparty and that kind of stuff. I always thought, we should port this to Litecoin. It doesn't need to be as, doesn't need to be as much proof of work for those things. And the transactions are faster, the fees are much cheaper. So do you think Litecoin can be Litecoin's niche? Kind of being, I'll take all your spam, I'll take all the spammy transactions that Bitcoin doesn't want, all the Colu, all the Counterparty. Is that something you see, Litecoin heading towards?
Yeah, I mean, I've always seen Litecoin as complementing Bitcoin in terms of addressing the transactional needs, the crypto transactional needs of the world, right? So, yeah, so Litecoin is finding its own kind of niche in terms of security decentralization versus like fees and throughput. Right, Bitcoin is aiming for the most decentralized and most secure currency or store value, and because of that, it can't handle all the transaction throughput, and the fees will be high. So Litecoin can find its own spot in that kind of matrix. But yeah, so I've been talking to like the Omni people, the Tether folks about supporting or about moving or supporting Litecoin also in addition to Bitcoin. And that's what they've been working on. So I'm pretty excited about that too. And Counterparty is also thinking about doing releasing on Litecoin also. I think it's definitely a good thing. Because Litecoin is so similar to Bitcoin, it's very easy for these second layer protocols to also be compatible or sit on top of Litecoin. And yeah, fees will be a lot lower, and we're a lot more open about putting spam. So if you like Bitcoin spam on Litecoin with cheaper fees and larger block sizes. But yeah, so definitely something that I'm excited about.
Cool.
Oh, awesome, awesome. This is great interaction here.
All right, I got a quick question. Sorry, Adam. Charlie, you do an awesome job for the crypto space. Just want to say that. But I do have a question. A lot of people do ask me, and now that you're here, where do you see Litecoin in the future? Like any particular projects or anything that you might be thinking that you might do? Yeah,
so the reason why I'm so excited about segregated witness is Lightning networks, also like confidential transactions, and Schnorr signatures, just the stuff that Bitcoin can't do yet, we can actually put onto Litecoin and test it out and improve Litecoin. And if it works out well, then it can help out Bitcoin, as Bitcoin can use it also, as assuming Bitcoin also gets segregated witness. I'm really quite excited about confidential transaction. I think fungibility is one of the kind of key properties of money that is missing from Bitcoin and Litecoin. So it's less about like buying drugs and more about just financial privacy. And confidential transaction is like half of that. You also want to, so confidential transaction does like blinding of the amount, so you don't know how much you sent to the other party. Stuff like, or coins like Monero have that plus ring signatures, which anonymizes which inputs you're using. So I'd really like to explore that direction for Litecoin also.
That's cool. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. A question that's come in from the audience, and I'll just throw this out there for anyone to answer. Who is spamming Bitcoin? Does anyone have an answer to that question?
Well, it's not. Some people may be actively spamming Bitcoin to make it seem like the blocks are full, and to push for their agenda of increasing the block size. But I think it's also that there's just a lot of people want to use Bitcoin, like for example, Tether transactions. You want to move like colored coins worth like millions of dollars, but or whatever, however amount it is you want to move, and you have to pay like $1 in transaction fee, which is too expensive. So these transactions and others are fighting for this the block space, which is a rare commodity. So that's what's happening, right?
Okay, so you do not suspect anything nefarious then, because I think there's a few people who
there is some nefarious things going on, because you see like transactions, you see like sometimes the blocks are so full, like there's thousands of transactions or hundreds of thousands of transactions waiting in the mempool, and then other days there's like nothing in the mempool. So something is happening where someone is setting a lot of transactions in a short amount of time. I don't think that's normal usage. So there's definitely something going on. There's also some transactions we've been seeing that have been using like high fees to kind of try to trick the Bitcoin Core's fee estimation to increase the fees for all transactions. So there's definitely something else going on that's causing fees to be so high.
Very, very interesting. I wanted to remind everyone out there, because we've got 115 live viewers. Wow, and it's an early show today. Pound that like button. Remember, pound that like button. Okay, I want to go to Francis real quick for a Litecoin question. You seem to be monitoring the situation. Throughout the week, I have just been pumped by Litecoin getting closer and closer to Segwit, and I've almost taken it for granted, that it's at 70% signaling or 68%, whatever, that it's going to hit that 75. Do you think it is going to hit that 75 very soon? When do you think that's going to hit that 75? Or are there going to be some nefarious dudes out there that just hate Segwit so much that they don't want it to be on anything? So, because once it's on, Litecoin is going to put pressure to be on Bitcoin. So do you see it happening soon, segregated witness on Litecoin, breaking this magic 70%? And what do you think is going to happen to the price when it does hit that 75%?
Is that a question for me, Adam?
Yes, yeah, because you said you've been monitoring the situation.
Oh yeah. I monitor Litecoin, but I have no idea of who the big miners are. So I really don't know about the Litecoin mining. But one thing is for sure is that if and when segregated witness gets adopted on Litecoin, just for the newsworthiness of that news, I mean, it's gonna pump for sure. I mean, can't predict it, but we all know that kind of news tends to lead to a pump. But I had a kind of semi-question / answer to the question that we were asked before. So one of the things that I'm thinking about that's nefarious, and that's not necessarily spamming the blockchain, is that certain miners are prioritizing transactions not based on fees, but based on other arrangements that the network may not be aware of. I was just thinking, if I was a big exchange or a big payments processor in China, I would go to see a mining pool and say, all right, so all of these transactions that are coming from these addresses, you prioritize them, and I'm not going to pay a fee on them, but we're going to have some kind of quid pro quo whereby I can dump my coins on your exchange at a preferential rate or something like that, which means that the mempool may be going down, but people are still, paying high fees. I was wondering if anybody had, wind of such arrangements, or if this is something that had been discovered before or discussed before.
Anyone out there, because that is very interesting theory there.
But there's always talk about like this kind of out of band payment for transactions. I mean, is that really bad for Bitcoin or Litecoin? I haven't thought too much about it. I mean, you're just asking someone's asking a miner to kind of prioritize their transactions, and they're paying them outside via other means.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that's bad?
No, not necessarily. I mean, but that would kind of explain why the fee tends to remain high, although the mempool is not as high. The kind of discrepancy between the fee and the mempool. I don't think it's bad at all. I mean, I think even one of the pools has like a tool where you can accelerate a transaction or something like that. Maybe it's reserved for their users. I'm not sure. I think it's via BTC. But this is the same kind of behavior, right? You put your transaction via BTC and they'll mine it, before anyone else. And I don't think you're supposed to pay a larger fee to do that. It's perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
All right. I want to go to Shane or Bitcoin on this one before we go to Charlie, because obviously Charlie's going to have a lot to say about this Litecoin thing, but I wanted you guys to give your opinions, if you had opinions, if you think that Litecoin will signal for Segwit. Will it get to that magic 75% soon? And will the price jump? Do you, Shane or Bitcoin, do you want to say anything about that before we get to Charlie on that?
I definitely think it will definitely jump. I mean, right now we've already seen the price skyrocket. And I do think it will hit that 75. Of course, there's a lot of naysayers out there and say he'll never make it. But I do feel confident that it will. And we definitely will have Segwit in Litecoin.
Do you have a date that you can predict it, that you feel?
I'm not going to do that.
Okay,
I'm going to jinx it.
Okay. Shane, any thoughts on that before I go to Charlie for the specifics?
Well, Litecoin seems to be pretty friendly to Segwit, and I really hope it does, because that would be good for both Litecoin and Bitcoin at that point. Yeah, it seems like it's doing pretty well. It's making some good progress, and since I like to make wild predictions, I'll say within the month.
All right, because it is, for me, and Charlie, this is for you, I guess, it was just exciting to see it just get so close to 70 all of a sudden, and I was just about to ready to proclaim, 75 is around the corner, but it ain't over till it's over. And I wonder if there's going to be a plateau now, if there's going to be a panic. Do you know anything that's about to happen? Do you have any insight that you can tell us? That are we going to be around 70 for a while? Do you have a day you think it might happen real soon?
I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna. I've always known that it's gonna be a big fight for 75%. And now I know. Now we know why, right? Potentially the fight is because someone or some big miner manufacturers trying to protect their profits. So I think we need to convince another pool like BW to signal for Segwit. We're pretty close, I think, but they haven't started signaling yet. And we need to kind of reach out to more miners and convince them that Segwit is good for their bottom line and they should switch to a Segwit signaling pool to help this out. I have heard rumors that more hash rate is going to come on the market that is going to be not signaling for Segwit, and I also know that there's more hash rate coming on that will be signaling for Segwit. So it's going to be quite a battle. How long it's going to take, I don't know. But we do need 75% for a whole period of 2 weeks. So it's not like if we hit 75%, it's all of a sudden going to start activating right away. We need to keep above 75% on average for a whole 2 week period. So it's not going to be easy.
Well, yeah. I will tell you one thing. That's good that you informed the public there that it's got to last for 2 weeks. Not everyone knows that, so thank you for that. Is there anything that the public can do to help out there to get this thing going, to get these magical last 5% going?
Yeah, like message your favorite non-signaling pool and ask them to signal. Buy some miners and start mining. I wouldn't recommend doing it on your home computer or GPU, but so buy some ASICs, buy some Bitmain ASICs, and start mining Segwit. Start mining at a Segwit pool. That would help.
Charlie, I have a question for you. Is there a coincidence between CSV and Segwit being at the same kind of? They're both at like 70%. So I was wondering, CSV is like super uncontroversial, so maybe it's the same pool, and maybe there's like a technical reason why they're not signaling.
Sorry. Yeah. So the ones that are not signaling have not upgraded to the latest software yet. So they're still on version 4, block version 4.
Okay.
They're not doing bit 9. So the ones that are doing bit 9 are, I think all of them are at least signaling for CSV. If they're not, then they just didn't turn it on. Yeah, it's not controversial, and honestly, like, I'm not even worried about CSV. So if we get Segwit, we'll get CSV. Yeah, so I mean, we're not spending any time thinking about that. So we're focused on Segwit.
Charlie, there's a question from the audience real quick, and this is, I guess, a long-term question. Is there going to be a privacy layer added on Litecoin? Are there any plans?
Yeah, so I talked about it a little bit already. I'm very excited about looking to adding confidential transactions to Litecoin. So, and further do some more research on other kind of privacy solutions that would include like ring transactions or something similar that would help kind of make the inputs private.
Excellent. Wanted to just get that, guys. I thought it was you did mention that, so thank you. Let's panel again, since it's, I mean, Litecoin was a huge story this week, and I've got a lot. Do you have any other questions, panel members, for or just comments for Charlie that deal with this huge subject matter?
A quick question. If Segwit gets implemented in Litecoin, how fast will we notice changes? Or would it be immediately, a month? You know, I'm just trying to figure that out so I can go back and kind of tell people, you know, how long it would take.
It's a good question. So, like I previously mentioned, you would need like a 2-week period of 75%. So we're currently on period 5, and period 6 will start, I think, like less than a week in a few days. So when period 6 starts, if we're at 75%, and for the next 2 weeks we're on average above 75%, then it will lock in, right? So 2.5 weeks later, it will lock in, assuming everything goes well, and then it takes another 2 weeks before to activate. So once it's locked in, it will definitely activate. So 4.5 weeks later, it will activate, and once it's activated, that means miners cannot mine any Segwit stealing blocks. By that I mean any transactions that are stealing from the anyone can spend Segwit transactions. If they mine those into a block, then that block will get orphaned by everyone else. So from that point onwards, you can safely do Segwit transactions without fear of anyone stealing your coins. So from that point onwards, we can start working, start doing Lightning Network transactions and other stuff.
Shane, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I had a comment about what people can do to help get this extra push, this 5%. And I have to say that when all this forking stuff, the big controversy started with Bitcoin a little while back, you and I, Adam, talked a lot about hashtags, what to use to get out there to really push the social media envelope and try to prevent this this hard fork from happening. And it was very effective, and it happened very fast. That people were starting to use the hashtags that we were coming up with and putting out there, and they were getting adopted, and people were using them. And I feel like we had a difference. The community had a difference, or made a difference in that sense. So you do have some power. You know, we can probably start using the support Segwit hashtag again for Litecoin, something along those lines, because it worked really well before with what we were doing. I think we kind of helped to get some cooler heads out there to counteract the narrative that was being pushed. So I think that's something we can do. Continue to use hashtags, be vocal, get out there on Twitter, because a lot of these guys in the Bitcoin world are on Twitter. I mean, they're all on Twitter, so you can contact them directly. You can use the hashtags to kind of get it out there. And when things start to trend, people start to notice, and the market responds to that. So that was kind of my comment about that, is that people do have power in this. You know, cryptocurrency is the most democratic form of money that we've ever had, and we're not used to it. So we're not really used to our voices being heard, or our comments being recognized. But yeah, that was kind of my comment on that, was to, you know, have a little self-inspiration, go out there, share your voice, and it'll help. So that's we can use that, support Segwit, maybe help get that 5% over the cliff.
Excellent idea. Use that hashtag that's already out there, so that all the Bitcoin people realize that, you know, that, hey, they probably do all realize it. A lot of them realize that it's so huge that if it actually gets activated on Litecoin, it'll put some pressure on Bitcoin. And I want to actually ask everyone about that in a second. But before we do that, there is a question from the audience that I found very interesting for Charlie. When once Segwit is live on Litecoin, and God willing it's soon, how soon does Lightning Network start? Someone was wondering.
Yeah, so we already reached out to the Lightning Network team, or I mean, there's like 5 of them, but we reached out to the Lightning.network team and offered to work with them to have Lightning Network support Litecoin, and they're really excited about that. So we are working with them to do that. So once Segwit activates, then we can start testing on Litecoin LiveNet right away.
Okay, that's a good answer for our audience member out there, and I'm glad we are Shane's out there monitoring some questions. So thank you very much, Shane. So let's talk about how Litecoin Segwit is related to Bitcoin. Well, I'll jump over to Francis real quick. Do you think it will trigger if Litecoin successfully implements Segwit, and it seemed to be a huge success, as in there are no problems with it? Do you see that being the straw that breaks the camel's back, and that everyone will be like, let's just do this with Bitcoin now?
I mean, a week ago I would have said a resounding yes, but you know, maybe I would have said, okay, so Segwit gets activated on Litecoin. It's not the end of the world. We can see that blocks start to get bigger, and all right, so all the opposition to Segwit kind of goes away. But if the opposition to Segwit is for completely different reasons related to ASICBOOst, then obviously the activation of Segwit on Litecoin would have no effect. You know, so I can't really say. It all depends on whether or not it is the blocking of Segwit is related to ASICBOOst, as you know, we're starting to, you know, to believe.
All right, Shane, any thoughts on the joint thoughts of Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Segwit, just all combined?
Well, they seem to have kind of a familial relationship. You know, we've always heard that Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin's gold, so they kind of go hand in hand. Litecoin is the test net in many ways, so when something happens on Litecoin, it's probably going to happen on Bitcoin, or at least it's a good example of what could happen on Bitcoin. So if we pass Segwit on Litecoin, then I think we're going to see Litecoin go up, and then we're going to see Bitcoin go up as maybe a market recognition that people want Segwit, and hopefully that'll help push Segwit along on Bitcoin as well. And that's pretty exciting to me, to actually think that this, you know, that the whole implementation of Segwit could actually happen on Bitcoin. That's kind of really cool, because I would love to see those Lightning transactions.
At Bitcoin, on that line of thinking that Shane just brought up, let's not think that, you know, this question isn't about will Litecoin Segwit start Bitcoin Segwit. Let's forget about that. But Litecoin Segwit being implemented, what do you think it'll do to the Bitcoin price?
Well, the market, as you can see, you know, when the whole BU thing fiasco kind of came out, it dropped in price. But now that people feel more confident, the price is starting to regain traction. Segwit is definitely going to pump the price up from what I see for Litecoin as well. As far as how high it will go, I do not know, but I see the market is reacting pretty positive, and this is what people want.
Taking and Bitcoin, here's a follow-up question. Taking into account everything that we've talked about that's occurred this week, and it has been, and taking into account that there was some geopolitical stuff last night with Syria and everything, But taking into account that Bitcoin has seemed to be just very, very strong despite everything that's going on, what is your price prediction for next Friday for Bitcoin?
Next Friday. You know, the serious thing, I'm not really going to discount that because Bitcoin is way too strong. But I'm going to say, rough estimate next week, it could be 1300s. The way it's looking now, I would say good 1300.
All right, Shane, you have a price prediction for this time next week.
Well, the 1300 sounds pretty good to me. That would be nice to see it reach that level. I want to give a shout out actually to a friend of mine named Nicholas. He's watching right now, and he's just getting into Bitcoin. So this kind of stuff is really important for new folks who are getting into it. But yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that 1300 mark, and I think it's plausible. I think it could happen.
Francis, how about you? Price prediction.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna make a price prediction, but there's something I can tell you from experience on the ground. So I run a Bitcoin brokerage out of Montreal called Satoshi Counter. So we're one of the biggest physical Bitcoin brokerages out there. Also, we have an ATM network, and all the kind of Bitcoin brokers, they kind of talk to each other and the local Bitcoin brokers. And we've seen a steady rise in demand from investors that are coming into Bitcoin for the first time. So people that don't necessarily know about Segwit, that are not necessarily aware of the scaling issues. So I'd be careful to trade on the news, because there is this underlying kind of demand that's just growth in awareness and kind of, you know, world economic headlines being bad for the past few years. That's kind of taking its toll. So that's just kind of an underground remark. Some Bitcoin brokers are actually buying Bitcoins over market price because there's so much demand that people who buy and sell, usually they have a spread up and down. But now they're buying over and selling much higher. So that's just a general trend that doesn't really have anything to do with the scaling debate, I think.
You know what? You are mentioning something that is huge news, actually, and something that I have theorized and I have seen by talking to people who know nothing about technical stuff, who don't care about Segwit, never heard of Segwit. I have gotten the feeling that there are just people out there that are buying Bitcoin that are newbies, that newbies are coming in. And so you just have given proof in your business and what you do. You've seen them up there in Canada. So that's a big news story. That's a very reassuring thing. Also, that's gonna help stabilize this price. So there again, I have always said it's like a gold and hold type. There are a lot of people that use it as gold and just a hold. Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No. Sorry, I interrupted you. But it's the hype cycle about the blockchain, right? So we're kind of at the peak of the hype cycle, kind of going down. Well, it's interesting because all the guys that investors and institutional people, corporate people that got into blockchain and eventually started digging, and nobody's we're not like super intelligent, knowing that Bitcoin is really at the core. If you spend enough time, you will eventually figure out that Bitcoin is where the value proposition is at. And a lot of people that are buying Bitcoins are people from banks and financial institutions and corporates, and they just receive the newsletter from the company saying, oh, blockchain is going to disrupt the world and supply chain, and they kind of get into that. So we're feeling the effects now of the blockchain bubble kind of winding down and people getting back to Bitcoin. So that's when I talk about newbies getting to Bitcoin, these are the people I'm talking about. These are the people that I'm dealing with. There's always been that kind of that base people who use Bitcoin because they have to, because there's some certain things that they just have to use Bitcoin for. But this new class of investors that came from the blockchain hype now getting into Bitcoin, and these are people that are putting much more serious money than that base layer that needs Bitcoin for transactional purposes. So I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. I'm not going to make a price prediction, but regardless of scaling, I'm super bullish right now.
I've got a follow-up question on this though. These people that you talk to that want Bitcoin, do they ever ask you about any other coins, or do they have no clue? And if they do ask you about any coins, which coins are they?
Yeah, they ask about coins all the time. So unfortunately, potentially because of the way our business is a little bit particular because we're kind of like the Bitcoin help desk for like East Canada, basically. So we get a lot of scams, a huge amount of people that they're pouring their life savings into Gladia coin, and you know, 1 week it's a coin, the other week it's another, and you just try to, we try to talk them out of it, and we refuse them as clients. So that's really bad. But other than that, I mean, Litecoin is a big one right now. It's a huge coin. The other one is a Zcash, Monero, Ethereum, Dash a little bit more recently.
So you're saying that you're getting just people are contacting you saying, hey, I want to buy some Bitcoin. Have you heard of this Litecoin also type of questions? Or can I get Litecoin also from you type of questions?
Yeah, well, we have an in-person brokerage where people pay with cash or people pay with debit cards, which are irreversible transactions. So we have very low fees and very, like, you know, basically no KYC under certain amounts. So whenever they want to buy any coin, well, they just come and buy Bitcoin here, and then they'll just, you know, use Shapeshifter or something like that. So I mean, you know, Bitcoin is the, you know, reserve currency of the altcoin, you know, ecosystem. So nobody buys, you know, Monero with US dollars. You know, everybody buys Bitcoin, and then they switch back to a cryptocurrency. So we see everybody who's cashing in and out of their altcoin is, you know, first cashing out in Bitcoin and then getting into fiat or vice versa.
Could you give the URL of your company that does this, by the way, so everyone knows? Yeah.
For the in-person brokerage?
Yes.
Yeah. Right now.
Okay. You can share it, or I will include it in the notes section. But again, I just want to, which altcoin is legit of people that aren't getting scammed here? Which altcoin would you say is the #2 asked about at your company?
It's between Zcash and Monero.
Okay, those are but people do also ask about Ethereum and Litecoin, you said too.
Yeah, so I actually, Charlie's portfolio that posted about a few months ago, I think, except for Decred, I mean, that's basically it, right? It's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum Classic, Ethereum, Zcash, Monero. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So Dash and Dash, not that Dash was one of his, but Dash isn't asked about as much as the other ones.
Well, people are selling Dash. People are cashing out their Dash. There's not a lot of people that are buying, but a lot of people are cashing out.
Dude, man, you've got a lot of insight here, man. I'm sorry to the other guests here that I'm picking on this, but this is really interesting. One final question: do you have a lot of French speakers that contact you, or is it mostly English speakers? I know you can handle both.
Yeah, it's mostly, I don't know. Actually, you know, everybody that's into Bitcoin speaks English because all the material's in English. So the ones that don't speak English, unfortunately, are kind of cut out. Since, I mean, it's not like Chinese, right, that has a big native, you know, speaking community. The French speaking community is big, but, you know, not that much. So yeah, we tend to just get English speakers or people that speak English.
Okay, Charlie, there's one huge question that audience member reminded me of. I actually brought it up on the show the other day. Is Coinbase really going to, you and Brian had a exchange on Twitter. Was that a legitimate exchange, a joking exchange? Is Coinbase going to list Litecoin anytime soon?
Yeah, let me tell you a bit about the exchange. So, I mean, people were saying like, wow, that's like so fake, but it's actually not fake. So in our company Slack chat, someone posted that. So I mean, I've obviously been thinking about adding Litecoin to Coinbase for a while, but it always depended on GDAX's volume being high enough to support our Coinbase brokerage. So if GDAX, if no one was using GDAX, there's no Litecoins there. Then if someone wanted to buy Litecoin on Coinbase, we had nowhere to buy them from. Well, I mean, I guess we could like buy them from Bitfinex or somewhere else, but we don't want to do that because there's it's much easier for you to just buy from GDAX, and that's also one of the reasons why we launched GDAX. So before Litecoin had enough volume on GDAX, we just couldn't support it on Coinbase. So a couple of days ago, when Litecoin's volume hit $10 million, which is incredible, it matches our Bitcoin volume. Right, so someone posted on our Slack chat room saying, "Hey, Litecoin's volume hit $10 million today," and then someone else said, "Why don't we add it to brokerage?" So I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And then a lot of people were interested in doing that. So there was a kind of like a small movement at Coinbase pushing for Litecoin on Coinbase, and not just me. So, and Brian didn't join that conversation. So I decided to kind of troll him on Twitter and say, what does he think about that? And he responded immediately saying that he's in, let's do it. So, and that's it. Basically, we got the final word that it was okay to do it.
So this is real, man. This is going to happen. I mean, do you have a day?
Coincidentally, we have like a internal company hackathon this week, and people are hacking away at adding Litecoin to our brokerage platform as we speak. So once it's done, I mean, there's a lot of things surrounding it. It's not just that simple, right? But once it's done, we'll test it internally, and then we'll just launch it. When that will be, I don't know. Soon, hopefully.
Wow, you're getting it here for. I mean, this has been a news-packed show, and again, I think some people are wondering, Adam, why aren't you talking to Bitcoin and Shane? I mean, they're my dogs, man. These are my hardcore guys that support me through the thick and thin. So I do want to give them shout outs. I am sorry. I'm jumping, you know, it's been a crazy show. And those guys are the hardcore workers down in the Bitcoin doing the grunt work on their channels. So you got to check out their channels. Seriously, man. I love those guys too. And I'm sorry I'm not giving them as much love right now, but they are my men. So Bitcoin and Shane, thank you for. Sorry, I'm not hitting you because I'm prefacing this because Francis is wearing that hat, and he's got to explain that hat to everyone, and we got to talk about that.
Right. So it's not a U.S. Air Force hat. It's a user-activated soft fork hat, which I just got in the mail yesterday from Stanton Mao, which is the same person making the hilarious "Make Bitcoin Great Again" and "Make Ethereum Immutable" hats. So yeah, user-activated soft fork is getting a lot of momentum. We've started uasf.co website for people to learn more about it, because there's a lot of misinformation and distortion of reality, and just general lack of understanding of this, because although it's not necessarily new, I recently did the exercise of going back in time to see where the term first originated. I mean, at least 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, it was already being talked about, but it's just picking up momentum recently, obviously because of stalling Segwit, Segwit stalling. So I don't know if Charlie, you want to explain UASF, or I can explain it a little bit of why from a technical perspective, it's not extremely simple on how UASF can get rolled out. First of all, there's two different. UASF is a concept; it's a general concept, whereas the UASF Segwit, as we're trying to do right now, is a little bit different. So the idea with UASF is basically that nodes would just run Segwit themselves and at a fixed activation in time. And essentially, it's a UASF that triggers a soft fork, if I'm not mistaken, right, Charlie? What's shown in front of me right now?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that. So UASF stands for User Activated Soft Fork. So the idea behind that is, so I made a comment about that a while back, saying that like right now we're doing miner activated soft forks, so miners can decide when we upgrade the protocol to allow Segwit transactions. But I kind of posted a question saying, like, what if every user of Litecoin wants to use Segwit? Why could a bunch of miners block that from happening, right? So if you think about it, like, users are what makes the coin what it is, right? You're running the nodes, you are sending transactions. So miners are kind of getting paid to do the job of security transactions. So why do miners get to decide that you cannot upgrade the protocol to something better if everyone else in the ecosystem wants it, right? So I hinted that a over in Twitter and Reddit that if we couldn't get miner activated Segwit to go through, like there are other options for it to go through. I did this a while back, and people were really like, "What the hell I'm talking about?" So what I was referring to is actually just UASF, and I think the reason why it's kind of so, this idea is a bit confusing is because over the last few years, people got kind of used to the idea that miners control the network. Like people think that if miners decide to change the protocol, if there's more than 50% of miners decide to do something to change the protocol, then that's Bitcoin or that's Litecoin. Like they can do whatever they want because they own the hash rate. And people refer to Satoshi's white paper as the reason why they can do that. It's longest chain or the most worked chain is Bitcoin. But I think the confusion came about because when Satoshi wrote this paper, a user is a miner. There's no difference. You're running the core client or Bitcoin QT back then, and that client is both mining and also acts as a node to kind of confirm, validate the chain. So the idea is that those are running that client, you actually are controlling Bitcoin's consensus rules. But when mining and user kind of separated, people thought that the power of validating the chain or controlling the chain went with the miner because they have the hash rate. But in reality, that power still resides with the user, because if 90%, the majority of the user decides to make a change, the miners have to go along, because if they don't, then they're mining coins that are not worth anything, right? If all the exchanges decide to enforce Segwit today, right? If all the exchanges say, if you steal from a Segwit transaction, then your block is not a Bitcoin block, we'll reject it. If all the exchanges do that, then the miners will be stupid to mine a Segwit stealing transaction, because they will be mining something that's not Bitcoin. They will mine that block and find out that the block reward in that block cannot be deposited in any exchange, and they can't sell it for cash. So that's the idea of user activated software, right? If all the users want it, then the exchanges will follow and run this code that says Segwit will activate on this date. And when the state happens, the miners will be stupid to not follow this chain. If they don't, then they're going to fork off into an altcoin that is worth nothing, right? So that's the whole concept of user activated software.
All right.
Absolutely. And, a few days ago, Gian, he tweeted, the economic majority, doesn't matter that much. But I actually have a bill payment service, which allows people in Canada to pay their bills with Bitcoin. And my clients are overwhelmingly miners. So if the miners are sending me, and I get freshly mined coins all the time, and I pay their hydro bill. So if the miners are sending me Bitcoins that are non-Segwit, and I'm running my user activated Segwit node, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to consider those Bitcoins to be Bitcoins, and I'm not going to be paying the bill for you. So you're going to be mining Bitcoins, which have a lot less utility, because they're a lot less they're a lot less usable. Sorry. So they're going to be worth a lot less. So as a miner, if you're faced between the choice of having a block which is accepted by the entirety of the network, and which you can sell easily, and a block which is only accepted by a part of the network, because that's what's going to be. The Segwit blocks will be accepted. Sorry, the non-Segwit block will be rejected by your nodes. Then obviously you're going to make a rational decision to go for this, to mine Segwit compatible blocks. And this is not really changing. To me, I don't see that as changing the core nature of how Bitcoin works. I always saw miner signaling as a shortcut. It's difficult. So the idea is that we make an upgrade when there is consensus, and only when there is consensus. But consensus is so difficult to quantify that, as and math and economics minded people, we wanted to have an objective proxy to determine consensus. And miner signaling I think, what I imagine is that the theory was that if miners are signaling at 95%, that must mean that there is, general consensus, and that's how we activate. So I think, that was a convenient shortcut, but now it's time to, that shortcut has become inefficient and has outlived its purpose so far. So so for the user activated soft fork to gain momentum, there's really only one way to go about it, is that we, as an economic majority, we need to absolutely convince the core development team and everyone that there is community support. So this is really a change that will need to be lobbied. Companies need to make public statements. Wallets need to make public statements, and exchanges need to make public statements. And once the core developers hopefully feel that there is a community or industry ecosystem support, the hope is that it is one day merged into Bitcoin Core. I don't know if, Charlie, you have any thoughts, being a core dev of Litecoin, what's the likelihood or what's the path for UASF to be merged in the reference? Because right now it's not in the reference client. It's a separate client that I'm running and that we're running, or it's Bitcoin Core with a comment. But how do we get this in Bitcoin Core or Litecoin Core?
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that. So so the reason why we're currently using a miner activated software is because it's much safer. It also, like you said, solves the it solves the consensus problem, right? So blockchain solves the business team general's problem, which is trying to find consensus. So without it, then it has to be like a grassroots effort of users wanting it and demanding it and getting getting exchanges to support it, and then slowly convincing core devs that this is safe, right? Because user activated software is dangerous if there's no consensus. So consensus has to form before people start running it, because it's hard to find consensus, because if you look at Twitter, like there's all this argument, people are loud on both sides, but in reality, like which side has most people supporting, we just don't know because we can't tell. So if there's no consensus, for example, if only 50% of people supported UASF, supported Segwit, and 50% of people actually actively are against it, and the core devs push out a UASF change in the next version, then if only like half the exchanges are running it, then when the date happens, we're going to have a split. It's going to be like a half-half split. And that would just really destroy Bitcoin's value if there's a split. So, and especially if miners are against it, which we've seen like a lot of miners are against it for whatever reason. So, so we definitely first need consensus from the users, from the exchanges. I think the economic players are the most important, like the service you're running, Francis, and like BitPay, Coinbase, all the exchanges, or at least most of the major ones, right? The smaller ones will kind of have to follow, because they don't want to be, I mean, they could support both coins, but if there is a split, but there won't be a split if the majority of the major economic players are running this code. So for Litecoin, I'm hoping to avoid this path because it's definitely contentious. So I'm still working on getting miner signaling to work. For Bitcoin, I think you need at least like a decent size of mining power that is in support of Segwit. So hopefully 50% or at least like 30%. So that way it's not totally, like it's not really that hard. And then you want to have kind of community voices speaking up for this. And you want the exchanges to, kind of like the exchange joint letter that came out recently on BU, to kind of have a joint letter or a website that people put their logo on saying, I support Segwit, I think it's the best path forward for Bitcoin, and urge the core devs to merge that in. So if you have like a website where all the major exchanges, the wallets, and the merchant processors are on board, and the users are all on board, or mostly on board, then the core devs will realize that, hey, there is consensus. It's not that dangerous to push out this code. And then they merge this code in, people start running it, and when the date happens, it will actually just happen. And it will be a quiet kind of soft fork where miners will see that, hey, there is consensus around this topic about Segwit. There is absolutely no reason why we should go against it and shoot ourselves in the foot, and they will follow. And then there won't be any, it will just happen quietly. And the thing about, there's something going on called like bit 148. What that is because we already have the bit9 Segwit software code going on, we want to kind of use that to get Segwit through. So bit 148, what that does is, for after the flag date happens for UASF, people will start orphaning blocks that are not signaling for Segwit, and that forces everyone to signal for Segwit and causes Segwit to pass via miner signaling, and then it will lock in and activate the same way that it will right now. So
all right,
just based on it.
This is we're getting so much insight here. Before because we gotta wind down the show here a little bit, I want to say over 200 live viewers, please pound that like button, guys. Pound that like button. I also wanted to say, someone wanted me to say, make Bitcoin great again. I already think it's great. It doesn't need to be made great again, but hey, what the heck? And make Bitcoin great again. Make it greater even. And I want to say, Francis, you shared your URL with me here. Where did that go? That Satoshi URL?
Yeah, that's the physical brokerage. That's satoshicounter.com.
So people want to check out the brokerage, satoshicounter.com it is?
Yeah.
All right. That I think some people are very interested in that. Bitcoin, my man. Do you have anything you want to share, any conclusionary things or any questions for these dudes?
I have one question. Charlie, can the ASIC boost be done to Litecoin as well? I mean, I know Segwit is being implemented, but prior to that, could it have been? Or
so Litecoin uses script for hashing, but there's also a SHA-256 part of that. Potentially yes, but not to the same degree as Bitcoin. So I haven't looked into it myself. I don't think anyone's doing ASIC boost or any kind of ASIC boost on Litecoin. It's just not. It's not that profitable. So I don't think so. But potentially there is something similar to ASIC boost that can be done on Litecoin. But if we get Segwit through, then that's no longer a threat or a concern at all.
okay.
All right, Shane, how about you? Conclusionary thoughts or questions for anybody? Anything? I mean, you've been taking it all in, and you've got any chat questions also that stick out that need to be answered.
I think I'd probably just add a comment, which is that all of this technical information is really great to know, and it's important for people who are into the space to really understand. And the price stuff is very exciting, but we have to remember also that the reason that Bitcoin was such a great thing is because it gave us an exit out of the stranglehold of central banking and fiat currency and all of that kind of stuff. So whether or not the price of these currencies, especially Bitcoin, and I would add Litecoin into that because of its ethical implementation or its ethical creation, it's what we need to do. This is we can exit from the system with this stuff, and it's open source, it's free to develop, and it's one of the greatest creations we've had since the internet, maybe even bigger than the internet. We shall see. But I just kind of wanted to put that back out there, that the technical stuff is great to understand, the price is exciting, but we love Bitcoin, we love cryptocurrency because it is a way out. It's not the fiat system, and it's a way for us to be liberated from all this stuff. So that'll be my ending comment.
All right, Francis, you have been representing Quebec like no man today. I mean, I am super duper impressed with what's. I mean, this is just great. What you have any stories to add? Any comments to add? Any questions for anyone? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say let's make Bitcoin great again. I'm gonna say let's keep Bitcoin great. So Bitcoin has been running, pretty much flawlessly for quite a long time. And being on the ground, I tweeted about this and I wrote about this. I've never, ever heard a single person, not one, make a complaint about the fees on Bitcoin, which weren't related to a wallet incorrectly calculating the fee or something of that nature. So people are upset because the transactions get stuck, but most of the time is because the fee isn't calculated correctly, or because there isn't a GUI for RBF or for CPFP, child place for parent, or something that would have fixed it. So that, that being said, what do users want? Users want, the users that I serve, they want privacy, they want censorship resistance, they want financial sovereignty, they want autonomy, they want to opt out of fiat. None of them want cheap or fast transactions. Although, I mean, it was an easy sell back in the day. We could add, to our pitch. Oh, by the way, it's also very fast and very, very cheap. That's not exactly the case now. So I would say that, the demand is growing for Bitcoin. I would just like to, a lot of people in the Bitcoin space are kind of in their ivory tower. They may be, only participating online, or being, a developer in an office, doesn't really interact with the, the Bitcoin people, the users. People are rushing towards Bitcoin like more than ever. No complaints about how Bitcoin is working. So I would just say, keep calm, carry on, hold, and be confident about the future. I know a lot of people are worried about altcoins rising and Bitcoin stagnating. That's just normal. So I would just say, from my perspective, as someone who's fully 100% all into Bitcoin, I'm not worried. I'm confident, and I think we're gonna see light is at the end of the tunnel. And once this current impasse that we're in is solved, I mean, oh my God! I mean, it's the beginning of a new renaissance for Bitcoin, which I see very, very soon. So let's keep up the good fight, guys.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many things that you just said. It's like you're like a French-speaking version of me, kind of. I think some of the longtime viewers here will see that this guy's saying a lot of the same things that Adam said. I mean, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I won't even get into all the things that you just said that I agree with. I mean, there are so many people are in ivory towers and don't know what's really going on the ground out there, how there are people who are gold holders or just people who like to hold assets who want to get into this thing. And it's so exciting. And yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, man, there's some great stuff ahead. So Francis, wow, I didn't know what I was getting into getting you on this show, man. I just thought this dude, we got to give this Canadian guy, he's doing some great things up in Canada, but man, you're on fire, dude. Man, this is, I hope everyone that loves I'm debuting these new people who are just awesome that you've never, maybe, because a lot of people out there aren't Canadian, haven't heard. I mean, anyway, I'm getting off on the side. Charlie, you were our shot guest, the unannounced guest. No one knew you were coming on. Not even I really knew exactly. I'm so happy you're on because you really shaped this show. And any conclusionary statements, things you want to say, things you forgot to say, go ahead and just, the floor is yours, Charlie.
Sure. Yeah. So I was admiring Francis's hat, and I just realized that I think the U.S. Air Force kind of name came from one of my earlier tweets. Let me share with you guys. Let's see if I can find it. A second. Here, do you see it?
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. There's something.
Yeah. So this was a joke. I'm asking people how should Segwit be activated on Litecoin? Should we do miner signaling? Should we do UASF, or should we just bomb them with USAF? and obviously the last option won. So just showing you guys the way I troll people.
No, that is funny. That's good. Do you, any conclusionary things that you'd like to add there, Charlie? Anything else?
I think. Let me think. So I want to comment a little bit about how Segwit on Litecoin could help with Segwit on Bitcoin. So right now, with Segwit almost activating, a lot of people have reached out to us about just being happy that what we're doing of they support us, like wallet developers, other like Bitcoin libraries, right? Some of them are saying like, hey, if you activate Segwit on Litecoin, we're gonna port our library to Litecoin. So I think a lot of that is happening, and because they really want, there's a lot of support for Segwit on Bitcoin, and they want to see it happen. So if they could, every little thing they can do to make that happen, they're willing to do it. So if for example, Segwit is activated on Litecoin, we have Lightning Networks running, we have all these different Bitcoin wallets also have like a Litecoin fork that supports Segwit. And you see like all the work is already done, right? All these wallets and libraries already support Segwit. And all Bitcoin had to do was just activate it, and it will get everything that's already being tested on Litecoin. I think that would help convince people to convince miners to kind of support it and to signal for it and activate it. Because a lot of the ecosystem, a lot of the wallets and stuff and like payment processors and libraries have already done the work to actually do Segwit transactions. So I think it's a matter of time that it will happen with Bitcoin. And if we still see miners kind of going against the users for whatever various reasons that they have, UASF is always an option.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this very special edition of This Week in Bitcoin. I would like to thank all of my guests for being on the show today. Again, their pertinent links will be listed below this video. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Please remember to subscribe to this video, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, tweet it out, retweet it. It's already out there. We want this to be the biggest This Week in Bitcoin show ever. It really deserves to be. It's been incredibly exciting and great. And you know, it's been a Litecoin centric show, but you know, Litecoin is really, you know, everyone knows they call me the big Bitcoin maximalist or whatever, but Litecoin is doing things that are very impressive and could just make a huge difference in this space. And Charlie Lee is just an incredible person, and I think everyone always enjoys when he's on this show. So a special thanks for him for being the surprise guest today. I am going to join everyone in the chat afterwards. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye. See ya.